good morning, everyone, and welcome to CH Tribe's exclusive event of Career Accelerator Sundays. I'm Pallavi, your student community manager at cleverharvey, and over the course of next few weeks, I shall be taking you through a series of sessions to clarify all your doubts about your child's future education and career. So now as parents, we always prefer for our teens to choose a career that is stable, yet rewarding. But what happens when your child has different and more creative dreams? Answering all your concerns today, we have with us Ms. Tanvi Pande, Service and UX Designer at Navis Innovation Labs. And former Senior Service Designer at KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. She will be walking us through the steps one might follow to achieve both creative fulfillment and stability in their professions. In today's theme, passion careers versus traditional careers. So welcome to the event, Tanvi.
Thank you for having me.
So now, without any further ado, let's kickstart today's session, and over to you, Tanvi.
So good morning to all of you. I'm Tanvi. Thanks for the introduction. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I am 32 years old. I live in Amsterdam. I work here, and I did not plan to be here. I just planned to be a designer. And along the way, I got some opportunities to also do some research, start my journey at products, move towards services, and also follow other passions like being an advanced diver, but also doing some improv comedy, something that I've always liked since I was young. So where was I when I was almost in my teens, late teens, so between 15 to 18? I was always a bit more inclined to being outside the classroom than in the classroom. I was a very notorious child, had a lot of headaches for my parents, and they thought, oh, this girl, I don't know what we're going to do. But I made sure that amongst all my studies, I always gave a lot of importance to my co-curricular activities. So I was one of those funny kids who took co-curricular homework more seriously. I wanted to do something where I had a platform to share and express my point of view. So I did my dance. I learned professionally Bharatanatyam. I was exploring that as a career when I was young. Then I thought, oh, maybe I want to be a teacher. And then, maybe I want to do theater. So every few months when there was a maybe, my dad would give me a homework and say, okay, try and find out whatever you can about the profession and see if you can meet someone from there. So I was exploring a lot, and by accident, I came across a friend who was applying for design courses. And that time, the only famous ones were fashion, interior, or architecture. So if you were the smarter one, you went towards architecture. But if you're a bit more dumb, you would do something like interior design. And I was not the artist in the family. If you go to my home, my entire house is filled with art and artwork made by my sister. And the funny part is I'm doing design and she's doing marketing. So we kind of swapped professions. And I really got into it. Like the whole entrance exam, I was like, I'm going to do it. And my family did not believe me. They thought, okay, this is one of her craziness. But there was the first time I learned about product design, that the products we use, like mouses, electric appliances, gear that people used to run, is all designed by somebody. And I was very excited about it. So I applied to bachelor universities, but I also applied to mass media and communication, because at that time, design was not something that you got a degree for. It was a diploma. We were the second batch of designers in MIT Institute of Pune. So there was always a fear, like, what's the career going to be like? So I studied psychology as well, but I was blown by the world of design, because what you think outside when you're applying to design courses is very different than how you make the decision. So the questions that were going on in my head, am I more bent towards communication and visual design? Am I bent more towards industrial design? And then you make a choice and then you go on with it. And then I got my first job as an industrial designer in a startup in Pune. But during this process of discovering who I am as a designer, I made sure that I used my summer vacations to do some internships, whether they were paid or unpaid. And I think that's really important because it shows you what your job looks like in practice. My first job, I was very happy to work on projects which involved, washing machines or designing locks and keys and making sure that my design is out there. But my question was towards myself was, what is the impact I'm making? How do I contribute to the business of design? And then on, I went towards understanding, oh, there are courses you can do to learn about the business of design or learn entrepreneurship. And it was only because there was this one course in the Technical University of Delft called Strategic Product Design that gave equal importance to design, research, and entrepreneurship. And I thought this is somewhere I could learn, because my bachelor course was very long for me to consider doing a master's again. I think throughout those 2 years in my master's, it was a lot of learning from different cultures, finding yourself, managing to cook and clean and give your exam all at the same time. So, it was more like life skills, who you are as a person and how you represent your country wherever you go. And then also I wanted to know where I can fit into work. So during my master vacations, of course, I traveled a bit, but I made sure that I had some more internships, paid or unpaid, just to know what kind of work is there for a person like me. And that's when I got introduced to the whole phenomena of service design. So in the people who don't know what service design is, it's simply put designing services. Everything is becoming a service. The apps you use on your phone, Airbnb is a service, Facebook is a service, Instagram is a service, all your games are a service, wherever somebody pays money and gets something for a long period of time. So a service is divided into two parts. One is the customer facing, that's you and me. And the other part is to make sure that we do everything possible with employees and the contact centers to make sure you get the service. So my best example and my biggest learning scope was airlines, where I did my first 5 years after my master's. And being in an airlines taught me how I can apply my design skills into different parts. So we have worked on projects with HR, how we can increase employee engagement. We worked on digital tools, like when you are checking in a bag, you just go to a desk and you check in. But the lady checking you in and the system that is taking your bag and the back-end system that is saying, hey, this person is now checked in for the flight, all have to work kind of together. If something goes wrong and the lady says, sorry, ma'am, your bag has not arrived. Why has your bag not arrived? Something in the system or the handling has gone wrong. So if I'm doing my job, you will never get to know that there's a service designer doing their job. But when I'm not doing my job, it's like, oh, someone did not design this service very well. So we made sure that we call it the online experience, like you book your ticket online or you check in online, and the offline experience, which is at the airport and at the airplane itself, you have a same experience. You get this feeling of, oh, Air India is actually good or bad. After working there for some time, I got very used to the industry. So I always made sure I did some pro bono projects, worked in a project with EdTech, and also helped mental health institutions back in India to make sure that, can design methods help them. In my current role, I'm in Navis. It's a logistics company. So when you order something online, there are these logistic providers that actually take these big containers into the ocean and then bring it to the providers like DHL, and then they move on to the consumer. So what we do is we design the logistics experience. We create tools for people who are planning logistics, like, okay, this container needs to be put here. They have these softwares and we design that for them. And for me, again, my role is focused on how the online and offline experience meet each other and how this planner, we call it business to business, B2B products work. And very soon I will be changing this job and I will be getting my dream job, because when I was 18, I looked at this one company and said, wouldn't it be great to work there? I cannot say the name of the company yet, but I would say that it is a Swedish retailer, very famous. This is what a portfolio looks like for a person who's done a lot of different things. Like I said, I started with washing machines, designing the interiors of refrigerators, creating kids' toys for communication between an hearing impaired child and a mother, creating shoes. So I've gone on your gali ka nukkad and actually stitch the shoe because I wanted my product to be testable, and designing keys, or that's also designing a whole brand rebranding for a chocolate company, or designing courses for kids, or it is about implementing design changes in airlines, or understanding and teaching service design. So my question to the audience right now is, what is a non-creative or non-passionate job according to you? Desk jobs, a job which you don't look forward to every day. Very interesting. Maths. Oh God, someone said maths. A job which is not interested and you just do it for money, which doesn't excite you when you wake up. Thank you for all your answers. I will move on while they all keep coming. Jobs which your parents push you to presume. All right. So what does jobs that are passionate, they look like this. They also look like this. They can also look like these. The few things that are common though in creative jobs or in any job that needs to be creative is your ability to step in and out of a medium or a situation. How fast you think on your feet, how you are able to express yourself, link people, engage people. When you look at somebody's performance and you say, wow, it's because you've been engaged. If when you interact with a product and you say, this is my favorite product, it's because it's engaging you. And when you're able to experiment, not everyone in Apple knew that this mouse would be the best, but you at a point say, okay, in the next 6 months, I'm going to create a mouse that solves ABC, and then you move on. And then you try and experiment. So this experiment mindset is a lot more in so-called creative people. But like you also said it yourselves, there is nothing like a non-creative job. Every job, whether it looks traditionally creative or not, is. For most of us who have faced the pandemic, we know that no one else except doctors had to think on their feet and help patients. And I think that is very creative. A brain surgeon has to find different ways to doing things. So it's what you find creative. And I don't know whether this is true, but I'm going to go say it. I think a CA's job can also be creative, especially when you're helping people not lose their money. The one thing that I would say, though, no matter what project or future or career you plan, there was a rap artist who said, we don't need to be having a better planet for our kids. We need to have better kids for our planet. So there were some mistakes in industrialization that our forefathers made. We are trying to change it as a generation. But the one thing that will be constantly hammered into kids of today and also teens and also people in junior position, senior position is, what is our effect on the planet? How are we going to make an impact? So these are some global sustainability goals. And no matter what you do, you can bring it in your work. And I say this with a little excitement and pride that when I was working in airlines, there was a project we started, the two of us, me and my friend, and we knocked on every door for 2-3 years to say, we need to work on sustainable flying. And now they are working on it, but it was something that was very important to us. So if something is really important to you and you feel it, doesn't end if you choose a job. You can always bring that passion back into your job, especially when it's for the planet. So what I would like you all to do is maybe take a screenshot of this, but think about it. There are a lot of jobs that will go on in your mind for the next 6 months, 5 years, 10 years. On the left, you see is a list. So write down those jobs. Keep this in front of you always. Treat this like a worksheet and see what you can find out about this job. By asking yourself, not your parents, just you, why do you want to do this job? How does this job help the world? It doesn't have to mean super impactful NGO job to help the world. You can be a dancer and help the world. You can be a musician and help the world. You can be a tattoo artist and help the world. But what is it that you think it will help the world for? What will you bring to the job? What will you bring to your industry? We need to open that entrepreneurial mindset a little bit. And what do you want to learn? The one thing that will never stop is your ability to learn and your excitement to learn. When you hear people saying, I'm a bit bored at my job, it's because they're not learning, they're not getting challenged. So you'll always have something to learn. And that does not mean that you have to learn it in your job or in your craft, but what is it that you want to learn would be a good place to ask yourself. What do you imagine? What kind of work will you do? Go wild, go from the most silliest idea to the biggest idea, write those things down. And what do you think your day will look like? What time will you wake up? Where will you go? Because one thing about a job is that it is every day. It is like watching TV every day. It's like eating dal chawal every day. It's every day. And then the second part is where we question ourselves is how are we going to get there? So you will write down probably 10 jobs. You'll keep looking at it. The list will reduce to 3. I have not given myself a timeline ever, but just observations or something at the back of your mind. And then you will move towards, okay, in the next 6 months, what can I do? In the next 2 years, what can I do to go closer to my dream job? In 10 years, what I can do? Who should you speak to? Should you be speaking to Pallavi? Should you be speaking to somebody else? Should you be speaking to me? Who are the people you need who will give you a reality into a job or a career? And how can your parents and friends support you? The one thing I've learned is no matter what job you do, and we always say this to everyone, be the best. It is one thing to be the best at what you do, but you will never do it alone. I can get all the design knowledge and I can be the first person. I can be a design director and say, this is what I'm going to do and this is what we are going to bring on the table, but I'll never be able to go there if I don't do it together with someone. Do not mistake that whatever money you think a job is getting, like the hot topic right now is UX design, and I will touch upon that. But if you look at the salary and say, okay, this is the career, it might be right now, and it might change in 5 years. And it can also be the opposite, that, oh, a career does not have that much money coming in, but in the next few years, it will make money. If that wouldn't have been the case, comedians wouldn't be there or artists wouldn't be there. So don't put money first, put value first, what change it's bringing to you and to the world. How to be successful in a job? I think my observations are just 4, irrespective of whatever you choose, is you need to be consistent. You know, it's not a eureka effect where you say, oh, I had this brilliant idea. Everyone can access ideas today. It's when you take it, you spend time with it, you research, and you're consistent with it for a long period of time that it comes into play. Collaborative, you're going to be working with different professions. So why not start understanding different professions? So if you're a designer, maybe your friend wants to become a developer, you start understanding what is it they do, because you're going to be codependent on each other's jobs. Your job is going to change. What it shows to you today, it's going to change. If somebody told a product designer 10 years ago that you would be designing screens, we would have laughed. Or you would be creating a metaverse environments, we would have been like, no, that's just a sci-fi film. So it's always going to change, and you need to be on top of the news. You need to be on top of what's happening in the world. And the other part is that jobs today in the world are becoming T-shaped. So what does T-shaped mean? It means that you are an expert in something. Let's say you have a depth of learning in engineering and you've nailed your craft. You're very good as an engineer. But the horizontal line is about how you connect different domains. What are your skills? So for an engineer to be a manager or entrepreneur, he or she will need to know business. He or she will need to know people management. He or she will need to know how to sell things to each other. So we basically are talking about T-shaped jobs that are going to be the reality. So it's about having some level of excellence, but also width. Why is all of this happening? Why am I talking about all of this services? It's because all of the jobs right now are dependent on digitization, and the T-shaped functions and the flexibility of roles has happened. Working from home is possible because we are able to work on a laptop. So digitization has given a lot of opportunities for people to grow. And I am aware that I've been speaking a little bit fuzzy for many of you. And that's because I want to share this point across that no matter what job you do, you will need to have these pillars and this mindset in place, these questions in place. And then it's really about finding your abilities, your interests, and experimenting. So how are careers growing? I would say industries are growing. In music and art, you have performances, you have performers, you have art mixing with museums, you have talent acquisitions jobs, you have event planning, you have songwriting, song digital artists, you have content creators, media performers, mixed media performance. Like there's this dancer I follow, Usha. She is a Bharatnatyam dancer, and one of her videos went wild because she mixed Bharatnatyam with hip hop, and that's where it got people's attention. So, that is really nice. People are trying to preserve their heritage. So curation of exhibitions is also a job which is set out, being a set designer. So one thing I would ask every one of you as a homework to do is go on Netflix and see this series called Abstract. And they talk about very different creative jobs from everyone's point of view, and they are really inspiring. And then when it comes to design and AI, so design and AI, I put them on the same level because design is a means for change. Most change makers are in places where they want to, either create change through a product or a service or through society. So a little basics I will tell you. User interface design is how you look at it. So how my screen is looking, what we will click, how buttons work together, how the interface, as we call it, interacts with each other. User experience can be digital or non-digital, how the user flows through a process or a product. Service and strategy design is a little bit high level, where we as service designers not only work on the concept, but we teach people in organizations how to think from a design point of view. We collaborate projects and we make sure that the concept is tested, research is done thoroughly. So there are also jobs like UX research, but user interface can also have jobs like AI designer, where you're designing artificial intelligence front end. So it's a bit gamified, but you will see how these platforms work. There's also branding that overlaps a little with service and strategy. Product ownership is where you work with developers to make sure that a project moves from A to B. And then there's system design, which is very much like, if I was, again, giving the airline example, I want to make sure that the whole airline experience works like clockwork. So I will be designing a lot more systems working together and questioning why some systems don't work together. Other upcoming jobs are also interior designers and hybrid designers, basically, because our change of work has happened. We're working from home. How do you create engagement in a workplace? So people are designing workplaces very differently. Game design, because whether people believe it or not, the more time you spend gaming, the more creative you get. So all the kids who like gaming, I'm telling your parents already. Developers, of course, software engineers is something we will always need. System architects. So when you create this entire digital system on a database, you need architects to see how this works together, especially when you have to replicate it or scale up a digital system. There's also film and mass media, which will never go, especially because there's social media that has come up. Actors, script writers, film directors, cinematographers, stylists, bloggers, journalism has changed. Copywriters and ad sales are becoming different. Voiceover artists are having a better career. So sound technicians are very important because there are so many of these apps which are giving the ability to people to create content in their mobile phones. So how to create better apps in this way, or softwares. Another space is of data and research, still a creative job, because a data analyst or a data scientist has to make sure that what has been put out there as a product is actually affecting people. And if they're not happy with it, how do we bring them back? So one portion of a job is merging qualitative research and quantitative research. So quantitative research is where we send those surveys and we come to know how a market or a set of people are responding to each other. But qualitative is when we go deep into understanding why people behave the way they do. So somebody that understands both is really important. Marketing analysts will be important. There's something called data visualizer, because as most of us have seen data and charts, we don't understand anything. So we've had people, at least in my company, who actually make these really beautiful looking graphs because they're telling you a story and convincing you. They are not there to just tell you data is amazing and numbers are amazing. They're there to tell you and make you understand, how does this research process look like and what are our conclusions? And then there's machine learning and scientists as well. Health and well-being is an industry which is also accelerating a lot, with mental health being in the front. We have therapists, we have mental health availability, we have psychologists also training in that. Food technologists are important because of the scarcity in resources. Pharmaceuticals, like we saw it in COVID times, the ability to think and create antiviruses, physical fitness, yoga, meditation, doctors, those will also be needed in the world tomorrow. And then EdTech and HR is something that is growing. This is not something I need to tell Clever Harvey.
I know exactly.
Also because, since companies changed a lot, people's behaviors change a lot, and how do you keep employees engaged? So there will be a set of jobs that will come from there as well, like a course designer, a media specialist, a trainer that understands businesses, educator, customer specialists, HR managers, because it's in the end about people. And then there are also other careers like travel and automotive, which are also coming up. Like I said, logistics engineers. The more we order online, the more we travel, the more it's going to be a logistical nightmare. So we will need people who are experts in planning, transportation, and also manage it with sustainability. So sustainability enthusiasts or graduates or managers who have studied sustainability in fuel, agriculture, automotive designers, because it's going to change. Everyone is asking you to make cars that almost run on water. So how are we going to do that? Shippers, truckers, planners, city, urban planning. I think these are going to be there. So this is my observation and what I have known in my job and the jobs around me. One thing I would like to say in the end is, if I told myself when I was 19 that there's nothing to be afraid of, you have all the time in the world to try. Your marks are not going to decide your future. You are. So observe people, ask for help, spend your time thinking for yourself. And the best advice I got from a design professional was, hey, why don't you just go into a party and observe people, see how people interact with everyday products, services. That will give you clarity about where you want to be and why. And if I could tell parents a little something is, don't single out their career out of their life. If your kid is really good at baking, ask them to, manage a bake sale, manage a home for one day, because their art is not what will make their job. They will be doing 100 other things while they are doing their craft. Ask them to sell some items, ask them to organize an event. If they are a dancer, okay, you're going to dance, organize your own event. Maybe they want to volunteer a charity so that they understand what it is to be in society and how they can help if they are clueless. And encourage them to network with people, change the dialogue that happens on the dinner table, make it about their job. You also can research about their job, make sure that they live, breathe, eat what they want to do. And it might change in a year. Encourage that.
You want to take the very first question, the sites available to explore art and design for undergrad?
I don't know any particular sites, but usually I refer to Behance. Behance shows you some work. What would be the best is, if you are interested in design, maybe try and find universities around and see what courses they offer. And that will show you the course structure. Can you suggest internships for high school students in India online? What do you mean by suggest internships? That they should do internships? I would say yes. In the field, it does not matter. I would say if you know somebody on LinkedIn, just send them a message and say, hey, I'm looking for an internship. Are you available?
Also, I would like to add over here, there is a site called as Internshala.
Oh yeah, actually you can check Nelson and Norman. They talk about design. You can also check the technical TU Delft website. That's my master university website. So university websites, they always have a page on media and collaborations, and they will give you a lot more knowledge. How long did it take me to figure out what I wanted? I think a long time, because from 15 to 18, that's what I was doing. So 3 years, I was like, oh, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I just went with my gut. I wasn't sure. And I was able to get some financial help from my dad. So that made it a bit easy. If he was not able to afford it, I think I would have thought about a different route or a scholarship. But it took me 3 years to figure out my career. And then it took another 10 to get to where I am. So it takes some time. A lot of people also are confused about business. Confusion is good. That means you're thinking, open yourself up, talk to people who are in commerce or arts, see what kind of work they do, maybe shadow them, ask them, hey, can I come to your work day? I will be your coffee tea person or your printer. And just observe what kind of work they do, of course, if the company is okay with it. In your opinion, is it beneficiary to get higher degrees after getting a bachelor's to improve a person's career? I'm not so sure about career, but it opens you up. University is something which is like a bittersweet relationship. You hate it when you're there and you miss it when you're away from there. Masters abroad or in India, it just opens you up to a lot more people. In my case, bachelor's also opened me up because my bachelor's had a lot of designers coming from every nook and corner of India. And that really opened my eyes. I was in this Mumbai bubble where I spoke flawless English and had to work with someone who did not. And I was like, why is this person not speaking in English? So, it plays with your pride, it plays with your morals and values, and you become really humble to understand actually what is the country. So, similar thing happens abroad. You find your voice, you find applications, but I don't say that masters abroad is the only way. Even though I did it, there are many other ways you can also spend your masters and your whole education in India, work here or work abroad. At least in Europe, it's not that your chances really increase to get a job if you've done your masters. Now I know equal amounts of people who've done either. About digitization, what I meant about digitization was because things are becoming digital, there are much more crossover jobs and much more digital oriented jobs. That is what has changed about jobs. Specializations can be across the board, and they've just given more room for people to do different types of roles. What are your thoughts on aviation management? Very interesting place. Aviation is very, very intense, not only with management, because we are dealing with laws, we are dealing with an experience. Aviation is great when everything is right, but if something goes wrong, we call it the unhappy flow. It is an industry that is going to grow. And it is an industry that's going to be wanting to be more responsible. So aviation can be merged with trains as well. So if you zoom out, it's going to be a transportation experience rather than aviation and railways. How do you think most important for social media career? It's consistency. I have done a lot of social media in the past few months, and it needs a lot of consistency. I have a lot of articles on my laptop, but to release it, tell your audience, you need to have a lot of consistency. You need to know how to sell big things in a short span of time. You need to have a knack of understanding where the crowd or the trends are going and make it a bit meaningful for whoever you are the social media person for, not just doing it for the sake of it. Fashion communication in London College of Fashion. I think that's great. Congrats, firstly, that you want to study more. My view will just be the same questions. Why are you taking the course? What is it bringing to you? And what are you going to get out of it? If it is to get exposure, is there another way to get an exposure? So basically choose the university or the college for the right reasons. It's because you really want to do that or really want to learn it from there. If you can find a better solution somewhere else, why not? Or see if there are internships around, see if you're going to be able to manage the life there. So there are a lot of questions that you will need to answer. But like I said, university abroad is not a recipe for a great career. It is one of the means. Mass media and communication as a career choice is a great one. Like I said, it's growing. Mass media is getting merged with journalism, is getting merged with social media. I don't know if many of you follow Faye D'Souza, the reporter. She has taken social media as a channel to make sure that she is getting the right news in the right way to people. So that is an example of how mass media has merged into social media and communication. And I don't think there has been a better time in which communication is more important because of the access of what a communication does to people with your Twitter, with your phones, with anything. So I think it's a great career choice. Like everything in the world, there's a lot of competition, and I think it's a great change maker. Of course, you can take singing as a career. Somebody asked, can I take singing as a career in the future? Yes, why not? But also think about it. You have to think that your parents or the forces that are making you doubt this decision is for your stability. So when I think about careers like this, so when I was considering dance as well, how much time are you going to give to your singing? What are the other things that you can also do around this profession that can make it lucrative for you? So can you understand what is music composing? Can you understand what is teaching? Can you take lessons in singing? Do you understand what it means to sing with different genres of music, collaborative? When you sing, are you going to make sure that your concert gets some charitable benefits so you can collaborate with charity? So keep singing in the middle and create a mind map for yourself. My ability to sing, what can I do in the world? go back to that chart that I shared and break it down to the limit where, if you don't get a singing gig, you're not hungry. Make sure that you have other peripherals, which we ignore in such a career, which is so dynamic. So a little bit about MIT. When I started MIT, I was the second batch. And I think what I know now is that their courses have evolved. There is MIT, there is also ISD, that is also opposite. And there's NID. There's Shrishti. There are a few more coming up. I really enjoyed MIT because we were the guinea pig batch and we learned from each other. Most of the bachelor courses are structured in a way that the first year is still a bit open for you. So you are, as an industrial designer and a communication designer, still exploring a few months. Because like I said, before you enter the university, you don't know fully what your job will be. And then they advise you towards a specialization. So I liked my experience there. It doesn't matter which of these universities you get in. Some of them are more expensive than the other. Some of them have more collaborations. Some of them promise jobs. But in the end, you will need to choose. For me, I chose MIT over, say example, Shrishti, is simply because I wanted to be closer to my family. No other logical reason. But from a course point of view, I think all of them are doing a great job. There are also accelerator programs like Soul, where you do a short course and then you don't have to pay for it until you get a job. But these are also something that you can entertain if you are interested in just understanding the brief of the course. What programs do you think can benefit most jobs? I think whatever career you're doing, make sure that you have a hobby on the side that you give some importance to. That will really help you stand out in your job interviews. That will really help you understand what kind of job you want to do, and you will always have a backup plan. What do you think about investment banking as a career? You will be very rich, my friend. That's what I think. Like I mentioned earlier, in any career, please know that if you're an investment banker, you will just not be dealing with the people who understand money. You will be dealing with people who do not understand money at all. So your people skills are really important. How you break down information for your clients is really important. Your background, they're going to pick you over 29,000 people. So you need to know something better. That's why I always suggest people do pro bono projects or charity projects, because it kind of helps you understand the whole richest to the poorest spectrum, but it also is easier to have projects. So if I was hiring somebody, for me, it is important that the person has done many different kinds of projects. So I know that, this candidate can apply his or her mindset in different situations. And the same thing is for banking. If we can excel in any field and get success, no work is big or small. Yeah, that is true.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a big pleasure. I'm going to also put in one more link I forgot to touch upon. It's called 16 Personalities. If you are trying to find out what kind of personality you are, this website really helped me. Maybe the ones below 18 are a bit too young to take this, but the ones 18 and above can. They will try and give you an indication of what kind of a personality you are, extroverted, and kind of touch upon what careers would be the best in sync with your personality. So try it out. Don't be too serious about it. It's just a guidelines. Somebody also asked, what is the ideal age to start a part-time job in India? Any age, man. 18, if you're 18, I think legally you're okay. And if you're under 18, you can be your friends, chachas, cousins, somebody, and you can just sit and observe and do your homework and ask them if you can help. But I think if you're 18 plus, you can do it and try and get paid for it. People love free jobs, but negotiate.
Thank you so much, Tanvi, for clarifying all the doubts and, actually opening up a whole new world of perception about careers. We're deeply honored actually to have you as the speakers for today's session. And we really appreciate the time that you've taken out to show us the ropes and ensure that proper guidance has been provided to the future generations. This is much needed with so many options out there for careers and jobs and all of those things. So it's needed somebody to guide them through. So thank you so much, Tanvi. We're glad to have you with us today. And with this, we end today's session and hope this was helpful for all. The amount of questions that I see, I'm sure it was, and the questions will be never ending. So yeah. Next Sunday, we'll be having Tripti Singh, Postgraduate Service Manager at the Red Pen, and Naima Gupta from Jamburi, discussing going overseas postgraduate versus undergraduate. So stay tuned for more amazing sessions like this, and wish you all a happy Sunday.